Hello, our lovely Girl Awakening listeners. Welcome to 2023. I'm Jo Hendy from the Sacred Sister Project.
I'm Amanda Parker of Mayala Organics.
Come with us as we journey into this week's Awakening episode.
I talk to a spirit. She comes in my dreams. She teaches me lessons.
Good morning, Amanda.
Good morning, Jo.
Here we are, back in the hot seat.
Oh, yes, and it's a really, really hot seat for all of us
All
today.
of us. It's an emotional one for me already. We haven't even started.
I'm just beaming. I'm trying to make jokes, and Jo's just like, I'm not feeling even more emotional.
Yeah.
But it's a bit of a special episode today, and we're going to dive straight into welcoming our first Divine Masculine guest on Girl Awakening today. He has a long history of bringing people together. You could almost say he was born to do this. We are saying that he was born to do this.
Yeah.
From a sporting background and competing at a very high level, which led him into an awakening that is now where he shares himself to the world, we are welcoming Trevor Hendy today. Welcome, Trevor.
Thank you, Amanda. Thank you, Jo.
Welcome, Trevor.
I feel a little bit emotional too, Jo.
Oh, wow. Oh,
Yeah.
God.
So Trevor, father, family man and husband to my co-host Jo, thank you so much for being here today. It's a real honour and very special having our first Divine Masculine. And
you just asked me to pull a card, and
Yes.
I pulled the marriage card.
Yes.
And the meaning was bringing the Divine Masculine and Feminine together.
Oh.
And that's happening inside of me and happening outside of me as well. So
Yeah.
Jo and I are probably just going to cry because
I'm going to be doing this all by myself.
We have the most beautiful, amazing, upside down, backward, perfect marriage.
Oh, yes.
It's just been incredible for a long period of time, but it's come from a lot of courage and a lot of vulnerability and truth and breaking down all sorts of barriers and limitations and everything else. And so for us to sit here and share,
it's just quite a divine moment in itself for so many reasons that we're going to explore today and share together. I'm just one of these people. I'm just sitting here and amongst all this emotion, and it's just lifting me up so much because I feel, quite knowing Jo and Trevor for some time now, I just feel the ripple effect of what they experience together as a couple, how it comes out and, I don't know, illuminates people around them is something quite rare and quite special, and they both do it so very graciously. I think we're graciously, it's just a very special day today to share Jo's husband for his awakening journey, but also someone who stands so beautifully in his Divine Masculine and his Divine Feminine. The card couldn't have been more perfect, Trevor.
Yeah, it was spot on.
So
it
Jo's
feels like love.
I
just feel lots of love.
Yeah.
Lots of healing, lots of understanding.
I wasn't expecting that.
I was.
Yeah.
I had an intention this morning, and I was like, I'm coming onto the podcast, and we've joked around for a while that I want to be the first guy on the Girl Awakening podcast, and you girls are doing such amazing things. It's having such ripple effects. And I've got lots of beautiful soul sisters like yourself, Amanda, that have been on the podcast, that when I connect to them, wow, we illuminate each other through all sorts of different things, and they come on and share their magic on the podcast with my wife, and my soul sister and yourself. And I'm seeing the feminine and the masculine coming into what it really can be. So I had the intention this morning was to be here and be honest and vulnerable and not have any preconceived ideas of what I was going to talk about. And Jo and I joked yesterday because I said, what can I, and she said, no, we're not teaching anything. We're just sharing your journey. That's I said, well, Zara gets to teach.
Yes.
So we're just joking around about it. But what I'm feeling sitting here is like I want to bawl my eyes out. I want to cry because I feel our journey over such a long time has been so huge and so big, and we've had a very strong intention from way deep in our higher selves that as our, little human being self, we're slowly realising what it is for both of us. But it's to activate people the whole way through, and to have people awaken fully, and to know who they really are, and to have full confidence and trust not only in themselves but their connection to the divine.
Yes.
And so we've been cleaned out of a lot, and we laugh and carry on, have the funniest time, and even when we're tense, we're very funny. It's like, I don't feel very close to you today, and it's like, me neither. And so we laugh about it and explore and everything. But anyway, shut up, because I know Joe wants to say something.
No, I feel like I just need to, sit in the space today. It we get told constantly from our listeners, how much the podcast has been activating people, and we get so much feedback from the ladies that sit in the chair that say, they've left here and they've just been activated into another space, around what they want to do and where they want to go, and to have Trev here today is like, God, I'm like stumbling. Like,
which Joe doesn't do very often. It's just the power.
It's just made me extremely vulnerable, and just really excited to hear what you have to say and share, and it's, you're in the space, you've come into this little space that we have had only women in, and I know how much of a softie you are, so it's and lots of people have seen that, but it's so beautiful to have you here and be able to share, so people can actually see maybe another side to you that they haven't seen, that I get to see all the time.
I'm still meeting people who go, I didn't realise you thought that. I'm like, wow, I've been putting it out for a while, but people remember you for what you put out a long time ago, and champion athlete, and hanging out with the Beach Boys, and Baywatch and Madonna and all that sort of stuff. It's like it was all rock star sort of thing earlier, but all that was just trying to work out who I was, and trying to look for love in all the wrong places, and also all the right places, because you've got to look for them in the wrong places to work out who you really are, and go, oh, that's not me. So
hang on a sec, we have to ask the question before you start. So Trevor, how did your awakening begin? Drum roll.
Okay, what a question. I've heard you ask this so many times.
Trevor listens
and I've
to
answered
our
this
podcast.
question with different people on different podcasts a lot. But I think, if I'm really honest, and I think right back to where it started, I think it started with my mum and dad. The seeds of the awakening started when my dad left Melbourne with mum to travel around Australia. 3 years old, 2 years around Australia, left behind the best job, the picket fence, the whole thing. The wife, took the wife, the daughter and the son in a caravan around Australia for a couple of years. And I think in many ways, in this lifetime, in this body, on this earth, my awakening started then, because he actually took me around. I connected with all the First Nations kids and travelled around the country, and the Mother Earth was very much a part of my experience for a long time in my early years, and I'd forgotten all about it. And Joe and I were in Cape York 2 years ago, and I woke up in the swag in the middle of the night in Cape York, and I remembered stepping out of my father's car, not four-wheel drive, a big blue Dodge truck, with my sister in a place called Point Stewart, way up in Northern Territory, where we're going to go in a few weeks. And that makes me emotional too. And that just hit me. I remembered stepping out of the car with my sister, and in the middle of Cape York at 53 years of age. I remember being whatever I was. I can't remember. I think it might have been 8 or 9. Stepping out of the car with my sister and being fully aware of nature, of the bush, of country. Fully aware of country, and going and feeling the love for it, and turning around and seeing my sister, and knowing that she too had the same connection. So we had that knowledge between us spiritually that happened, but I'd forgotten all about that. And then we also went through sort of separations and things after that, where Di grew, she's 5 years older, than started seeing boys and stuff happen, and I'm like on my own now, and
all gets buried.
It all gets buried and forgotten, and a little bit, I'm a bit separate and everything else. And so Dad and Mum having the courage to leave the norm, travel around and be driven by spirit. They'd stay wherever. We drove 3 hours up the road and stayed there for 6 weeks. On our trip around Australia, you know, picked beans.
How fun.
And then everywhere we went, it was like spirit guided us to the next place. And Mum and Dad might not say spirit guided us. And Dad probably wouldn't say he was called by country. He was called to country, but I know that's what it was. So by the time I came back and settled on the Gold Coast, you know, they say between conception and 7 years of age is when most of your life patterns are created. So I think courage and adventure and all that was in me from a very young age. And I say that because the awakening wouldn't have been possible to the degree it was if I didn't have that stuff in place. And I do tell a story sometimes that my dad used to pull us up on the side of the road, park the caravan, Mum would start cooking, and Dad would walk us off into the bush, and he'd change directions and he'd go for like 40 minutes, me and Di, and then he'd say, all right, find our way home.
Oh, amazing.
And I was super young, you know, and I know inside of myself that him saying, doesn't matter how far you go, explore the beaten track, you know, go off the beaten path, but just know where home is. And so I think
a statement in itself, isn't it?
Yeah, it was implanted in me to know where home was, and home wasn't the house back in Melbourne that we sold. Home was where the heart was. It was wherever we went.
Yeah.
So to kind of answer the question is that the awakening seeds started then, but then when I tried to be the guy and be the one and felt bullied and belittled in life, and you know, the winner stole the girl all the time, and you know, I decided subconsciously that the winner gets everything, so I wanted to be the winner, and then I switched on this power to be the winner that just wasn't present before that. So I won everything, broke all the records, and then went, give it to me, you know, from that place of the shadow. And I got everything, and then felt more shallow and more hollow and more lost, you know, and right through to infidelities and, you know, losing my way fully in my own integrity. And then when Joe and I met, it was like the decision had already started that I was coming back from that. And I met Keith Maitland, our big chiropractic friend who I was with this morning, hanging on the beach for 3 hours, laying on a picnic blanket, laughing about stuff and laughing about our own crap. And
sounds like us.
Yeah, just like fully going, oh yeah, okay, you're clear on that one, are you? You know, I think there might still be a bit of anger in there. Get stuffed, you know. So our little code for each other is every time there's some sort of negative that we haven't looked at, I think you might have a bit of there's a bit of gold in that one there, mate. You know, I know there is because I want to punch you in the face. But I met Keith in '93. Jeffrey Shoecraft, my beautiful manager, sent me to him, and that's right where the actual awakening started from the seeds, and that was I'd lost my way and broken relationship with Jackie, first marriage, and that was, you know, pulled apart, separated. The part of me that wanted to be the one never really let her in fully, never let anybody in fully, actually. So,
and you're still quite young then too, aren't you, Trevor?
Totally, yeah. I was like, you know, there's John Denver song, Rocky Mountain High. He was born in the summer of his 27th year.
Oh, gorgeous song, yeah.
Coming home to a place he'd never been before. He left yesterday behind him. You might say he was born again. You might say he found a key to every door.
I know, I'm going to cry.
Yeah. And so Keithy, when I met him, I was 25, 26. And then that was my summer of my 27th year.
Oh, amazing.
And I feel emotional when I say that too.
Yeah.
And Jeffrey had given me the book, The Way of the Peaceful Warrior, Dan Millman.
That's another amazing book.
Yeah.
We've had a few people actually mention that book on this podcast.
Yeah.
That was a game changer.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I've got a cool story about Dan Millman,
yes.
quickly. But so then I walked into Keith and he said to me, and Jackie and I were, you know, like separating, at odds with each other, all sorts of stuff going on. Jackie was actually pregnant with TJ, so it was like a really brutal time to be separating.
Yeah.
But so much stuff had happened, and I was looking for a way out, not a way out of the relationship, which might seem that way, but a way out of the pain and the disconnection that I was in. And the more I'd created this life for myself, the more I wanted out.
Yeah.
And so I'd kind of trashed Jackie in the process as well, which, apologise for many times since. And
well, when you're not yourself.
You're not yourself. You do things to people that you love
exactly.
that is what you do to people you love.
You're on
Yeah.
the same bus together, basically.
Oh my God, yeah, absolutely. And now we're
Mm.
amazing brother and sister because of it.
Yeah.
Spiritually,
Yeah.
we'd do anything for each other,
Mm.
and we've been on such a journey with
Yeah.
all of us, that we would do
Being
anything
brave
for each other.
enough to keep going through.
Oh,
Yeah.
that makes me emotional too, because I, being loved by someone at a young age, but then hitting all the negative energy and the stuff like that and pulls it apart, but then restoring that love and connection to a higher point than what it was,
Mm.
beyond relationship, into I'd do anything for you.
Yeah,
Got your
true.
back to you. If you ever really need me, I'm here,
Yeah. A true love.
and the
yeah.
way we all do that for each other. And
Yeah.
so that was interesting, because I walked into Keith and he said to me, and I had all sorts of stuff going on my body, and he said to me, okay, checked me out, lined me up, and put some magnets and things and lined me up, and then he said to me, well, your body's telling me that you're not going to win another world title until you resolve a few things.
That would have been challenging.
I remember thinking, I'm 3 times world Ironman champion. How dare you tell me? And so the ego fully revealed itself straight away. I didn't say it, but 2 things presented itself. There was the me listening, and then he actually said to me, I think you've got, you might have a few, maybe dairy intolerance or some allergies. I can see it in your face, and so I want you to bring some food samples in. But also, I think you've got some anger issues, and I think some suppressed anger. And we're allowed to swear on this podcast,
Yes.
aren't we? So I apologise, Mum, if you're listening to this, but my first thought in the back of my mind was, fuck you. fuck. And so I'm standing there facing him, smiling as I do, smiling. And I was pacing behind myself, going, this fucking guy's dead, I'm going to kill him, Who does he think he is?
I'll prove him wrong.
Yeah, I'll tell you what, I'll come back tomorrow, all right, to prove you wrong. So this is how insane the ego is I was going to come back the next day to work with him, to prove him wrong that I needed to work with him.
Yes.
So I literally was, like it was the insanity. And I remember thinking to myself, he goes, and he said to me, it's a father figure. And he said, I'm not sure it's your father. Is there someone else that you're angry at? And I went, my Uncle Jack, who I suppose was like, he made my life feel so safe. Because he swore, carried on,
Smoked,
drank, was an
Yeah.
absolute lunatic. And
Yeah.
in some ways that made me feel safer, because he wasn't trying to be good.
Yeah,
Realness.
just
He
solid.
was real.
Yeah.
He was true. And he passed away. And it's about 2 or 3 months before that. And I said to Keith, I'm not angry. I said, it could be my Uncle Jack. He lived with us. He was like my second dad. And I said, I'm not angry with my uncle. I'm really sad. And Keith, in his brutal way, said, yep, you're also angry at him too, though. I went, what do you mean, like this? And he said, I don't know, maybe is there some part? I said, and I went, oh. And he goes, I want you to go and write a letter to him. And I want you to put an envelope and put it in the rubbish bin like it's a post box and send it to him, everything you really want to say.
Yeah.
I was thinking, I won't be angry. And then when I got down to it, I was so sad that he left, but I was angry that he left.
Yeah.
And then years later I had a similar thing with a spiritual teacher that had departed, and there was that, would you leave me here all on my own for? But he said, come back tomorrow and we'll work on this. And I was thinking, and he said, you got to let go of that anger. And I was thinking, that fuck you, And then I actually went, mental note to self, I do appear to be really angry about what he said. And when I raced, I used to have this voice come into my head that wasn't my voice, didn't come from my self-talk. And it would say, you got to go your own way. And so it would come in the song, got to go your own way. And I'd run around the flags, and I'd go, got to go my own way. And everyone's going that way, and I'd go a different way. And whichever way I went became the way to go. So in the next round, because I'd pass everyone, the next round they'd all go that way. Yeah. And I'd go, I'm going to go that way. And I used to go down and find a bit of water that was flowing in the right direction on the bottom, swimming, for example. And then when I found the water and appreciated finding the water, all the other water would come to me and amplify. And I'd end up in a stream, in a river underneath. I'd be doing breaststroke on the bottom, going, oh, this is beautiful.
In the flow.
In the flow.
Beautiful.
In the flow of the higher power, like the source being the ocean. And I could be 10 seconds slower than the other 400 metre swimmer in the swim leg, but come in 15 seconds in front, or 20 seconds or whatever, because I was actually going with the ocean, not with my muscles. you know, not with my own speed. So that voice was always there, go your own way. And then I drove off from that. Keith said, come back tomorrow with some food samples and everything. And I drove off, and I was just basically around the corner at Palm Beach, and I drove off and I came over Burleigh Hill. And as I was coming over Burleigh Hill, I'm going, fuck him, fuck that, you know, and I had all these other bizarre things in my head of why I shouldn't listen to him, and Jeffrey sent me to him, and maybe it's because of this and that, and blah blah blah.
Trying to make sense of it all.
Trying to make sense of it all, and I all of a sudden I was kind of like being a bit animated with my body, and I shook my shoulder, and I went, my shoulder's not aching, and then I moved my hips, and I went, my hip's not aching, and then I stretched my arch, and I went, my arch is not aching, and they went, hang on, I'm not in any pain.
Wow.
And I went, but he didn't touch me. I just literally went, but he didn't touch me. And this voice, the same voice came in and said, he told you the truth.
Oh.
And I went, oh.
Yeah.
And I drove down the other side of Burleigh through into the northern side towards my home, towards Surfers Paradise. And I drove down and everything changed. The whole world changed. Like things had depth to them, and I had peace. And the breeze, I wound the window down. I was like, what has he done to me? He didn't touch me, but he told me the truth, and you know the truth, and the truth shall set you free.
Wow.
And so I went, by the time I'd got to the bottom of Burleigh Hill, I'm like, I'm going back tomorrow to find out what.
Wow.
So I actually, that ego part hung in there for as long as it could, trying to prove him wrong. And the other part of me, I feel really emotional when I say that, because I think I gave him a real hard time. Tried to prove him wrong.
He's up for it.
Yeah.
He was so up
but
for
also
it.
tried to prove him right.
Yeah.
You know, so it's such a dichotomy, such a fascinating duality.
Yeah.
But that started it. He put me on a detox, and then I felt incredible, like this cleanse, and it was incredible. And I used to drink after races. I never was a drinker, you know, and I grew up not drinking as a kid and everything else. And then I'd go long periods of not drinking into the series, but then after a race I'd go and party and celebrate, because that's what you did.
Yeah.
And you were the one, and you had the drink card, and there was the girls, and the, you know,
The whole
rock stars had turned up, and other sporting stars, and you'd be the leader of the gang and everything. And so it was like this false sense of I'm a someone now. And I had this cleanse, and we went away and literally spoke to Michael Holmes yesterday, who's the lead singer of Images, and we resolved some stuff. He's like, oh, I thought we really screwed you up. You know, I said, no, it was the best thing ever, because we created a rock band.
Yeah.
And we travelled around Australia. I think you came to one of the
I've
gigs.
never seen you at the Surfers.
Surf Club.
Yeah.
This
Trev
is how
Long
far
here,
we
the
all go
band,
back.
all the boys up there.
And I was, and that, I was singing Cocaine.
Yeah.
And I didn't even understand what I was singing. If you want to head out, you got to take her out. Cocaine,
And
you
the
know.
whole club's like going.
I've still never taken cocaine in my life, but I'm like singing this song, you know.
Oh, it's the best song. I didn't know what it meant either.
Yeah.
It was like back
Wow.
when I was
So
listening to Eric Clapton.
Yeah, who I connected with years later, you know.
Iconic, yeah.
But anyway, we went around to go on this tour, and Jeffrey had given me The Way of the Peaceful Warrior. Keith had given me the cleanse, and I hadn't started reading the book yet. And so I get on the bus to go away, and I'm feeling incredible. And I'm starting to read about The Way of the Peaceful Warrior. And I've seen this in a lot of people, that the freedom I felt, the ego went, what can I do with this?
Yeah.
And so I just fully ran amok. Like I actually stayed cleansed till about Rockhampton, till the Rockhampton races, I think with Jay Gilbert and Michael Holmes, you know. And I remember going, oh, well, have a couple. And then as soon as I opened the door to having a couple of drinks, it was like this crazy party. And then it went right around the country, and it was, you know, Uncle Toby's 100-year anniversary. And we were both these clean living humans and this bunch of rock stars traveling around like rock stars. You know? But I was reading the book at the same time, and I was actually reading about auras and reading, you know, and I was like, what? And I read the Celestine Prophecy too. I took both, and I read both those books.
Big books, yeah.
So by the time I came back and walked back in, and Keith went, whoa, what's been happening to you? Oh, I got it, went off my cleanse a little bit. He's like, let's fix you up, you know.
It's funny though, because you're just saying that, I think about, you know, because it's happened to me too before, like where I've gone and done an incredible course, and then left the course and then gone out and got on heavy drugs.
Yes.
And it's like,
Yeah.
you know, you do it and because you're feeling on top of the world, but there's this energy field that comes in that wants to take you out because it doesn't want you to be free.
You can do this.
Yes, yeah, you're better this way.
Talk about seduction
Nobody,
and
yes.
the devil, so to speak, you know.
Nobody likes you when you're quiet and, you know.
It's almost like intoxicating energy you feel when you tap into spirit or tap into your divinity or your soul. That intoxication, as you said, like the ego kind of goes, well, let's get intoxicated.
Yeah.
You know, like
Yes.
like it's an equal kind of thing, but it's so not the same.
Yes.
Well, it doesn't
You know,
want
like-
you to be free.
It's
And using that example of we're
Mm.
exposing all our stuff here, that
Yeah.
we were on that course together, the one that you're referring to.
Yes.
And I had to leave early to go
Yes.
and do some work. And I
Yeah.
got on the aeroplane to fly to Adelaide. It was a direct flight. And the pilot asked me to come up into the cockpit. And I sat in the co-pilot's
Wow.
seat. And I landed at Adelaide at like 10 o'clock at night. And like I thought felt
Flying
like I was
the
in a
plane.
spaceship. So we'd had this incredible experience.
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh my God, I'm like on another plane, you know. And then landed, I did the
Literally.
work the next morning. And I'm trying to ring Joe. And Joe's gone out with a couple of friends, one of which I just bumped into.
Yeah.
And gone out. And the energy's gone the other way. So I'm going, oh my, but I was ready. I had a readiness because
Yeah.
I'd already done not all that, but some other
You've
stuff.
been laying the foundations.
Yeah, and so I'm like, oh my God, and I'm trying to ring and can't get onto her, and the next day can't get on, and then I flew to Melbourne, finished this thing off, I'm flying back, and then Joe says, oh, I get onto it, and she's like, oh, and I had this thing come up in me straight away from an old mate that I idolised and I loved, that was going to meet me for a tennis match when I was a kid, and he didn't turn up, and the foe in my life turned up and said, he's not coming, he's really stoned. And I'm like, no, he doesn't do that, you know.
Yeah.
And yes, he does, and he's not coming. I waited for another 2 hours, he didn't come. And so subconsciously, subliminally, I decided you can't trust anyone who takes drugs.
Yeah.
And they'll let you down every time. And that was part of me closing off. It was one of the key things. Everywhere I turned, you know, because I had expectation that someone else was going to save me. So rather than go to source, I would always go on to, well, mum's my source. No, dad's my source. No, my sister's my source. They're constantly disappointing me. No, my best mate's my source. Oh, God. I got initiated by him, you know, flushed. And no, all right, the older guy's my source. No, not him. And in the end, you go, well, fuck it, screw it. No one's source. I'm just going to win. And I'll be the source of, you know, and so
Power there.
Wow.
I came home in
decisions.
that moment, and in Joe having this experience that night, it actually was a gift to me because I went, oh my God, I'm holding that I can never trust you now because you did this. And it was like, oh my God, that's a trap.
Yeah.
That's actually not the truth. That was there way before this. So I've manifested this to set me free as well. And so we had the most beautiful, incredible release. I had an out-of-body experience. I actually went off planet from that whole thing and rang our spiritual teacher at the time and said, something's happening to me. The whole world's rocking. And he said, you're free now. Just
I
let
love
go.
that.
So,
Yeah.
so talking about when did you have your awakening, that was a big one. Because I shook off all of that stuff about trust and in the end it became, no, people are on their own journey. Do whatever they want. There is no good, bad, right or wrong. They're on a, you know. And so that part of me that does love people unconditionally, that it's still not fully there. I'm still working on it. That part of me has been growing ever since moments like that, you know. So that's another awakening for sure.
No, absolutely, and
Definitely.
we keep and we're continually having that. You know, that's the beauty in it all. But I think I took you off track a little bit because we're on a roll there, and I kind of
No, that was
that was
spot on.
beautiful.
And by the way, and that thing that took Joe, let's call it off track, but perfectly for that night, I had the same stuff in a different way. So I was still going off track in different ways that Joe had to forgive me.
Yeah.
And be the one for me that let go of the, well, I can't trust you because you've done that. You know,
Trust
so
is a huge 5-letter word.
well, what it is I trust that you're okay and you're on the right track and you can let me down if you need to, because I trust that whatever manifested is perfect for me to learn forgiveness or understanding, even better than forgiveness, understanding. So we healed a lot through that time.
No,
Yes.
absolutely. And I'm just thinking about in relationship wise too. I know, and it's not the same for every relationship, but for Trevor and I, it was the love was. I feel like the love was always there. Like that was one thing that was certain, even though sometimes it may have been hidden, it was still there. And then the trust was like, I need to hold the trust. You can fuck up as many times and I'll stay, but just be honest with me, or just it's like
it's the learning each time there's a fuck up. If you want to put, like, what's the learning in this? It's not like just sweeping it under the carpet, ignoring it,
We'll be
not
better
acknowledging
next time,
it, or holding the baggage in front of their face every day and going, well, you did this, so you have to do this for me today. And it's not what's the word? It's not a like money. It's not a currency.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And there's
the
no points one or
The other thing too was that over the years, we've both learned that whatever he's doing is a lesson for me.
Yes.
It's not...
And vice versa.
Yeah, and vice versa, exactly. And that's for me to take as much responsibility in the situation as he does, kind of thing. And it might be hard for some people to hear, that, but it's like it's a choice that you make in relationship, and you don't have to make that choice, but it's like...
if you're ready, you can.
If you're ready, you can, yeah.
Oh, yeah. I absolutely see that as being absolute gold.
I feel emotional when we share, because I think that's the basis of... I tell people all the time, I sit and I just start crying because and I feel Joe, I think of Joe, I'm somewhere doing a seminar or something and she just comes in and I just go, oh my God, I just have the most incredible relationship, like a relationship that I've dreamt of having. And what is that really? I love Joe. She's a beautiful human. She's a beautiful, physical human. That's the least of it, but she's this beautiful human, beautiful spirit and everything else. But it's like she's actually taught me to love. She's taught me to forgive myself and understand myself. And when you said that the love was always there, for me, I would say the connection was always there. But the love would be come in and out based on whether or not the connection was understood or felt fully. But the connection has been, I'm going to come into your world and it's going to turn upside down forever until you're standing the right way up.
So this is just like epic, because this is a relationship of all relationships, in all relationships, isn't it? Because because as you say, the connection always been there, the love being whether we also love ourselves enough to love the other person in the moment as well, isn't it? Because that's
we're
the
going to
love.
cry a lot today.
And actually acknowledging that you're in this relationship with this person, because you see there is this reflection, there is this learning, there is this journey to share together, and giving up on, it's okay to finish a relationship, but giving up on a relationship that's not finished yet, or not fully explored, not fully potentialized, we just do that all the time, on every level, with our kids, with our friends, all employers, all kinds of people. But like our intimate relationship with our partner, I think if we have that awareness where we step into a relationship with somebody, that this is about, like you said, the responsibility, the connection, the self-love, the love. If we stepped in with that, wow, wouldn't that change the, a platform of what
I think it's all the reflection thing too, because even the pressure to have to make it work or whatever comes in when it's about, I've got to make the relationship work. But if we say the restoration of love, that from the restoration of love, you can be with someone or not be with them. It actually doesn't matter, because the love is fully present. And that's what I've learned over a long period of time. It was one of the things that we were taught or introduced to at a certain stage of our awakenings together. But it's the restoration of love, because you can, like my first relationship with Jackie, I still come across certain people that'll have a similar energy to something that I walked away from, or I went, I don't, that might have manifested through Jack that I couldn't be with, and she would have had the same with me. But I just shared it this morning with Keith that I actually I stepped through understanding someone in Perth at the Australian Championships, a lady, and I stepped through to see that there was a certain thing and be with her energy, and in the end it was the most beautiful thing to be with this mother who was so stressed, and in that I went, I just restored more understanding for myself with that energy, but I actually felt closer with Jackie. So I'm like, that reminded me of that. But also we're going through family stuff at the moment with, kids having a hard time and separations in relationships and stuff like that. And the love I have for all parties is growing all the time, because my ability to be with someone that I would have rejected last week and gone, that's an inconvenient energy to be around. So my point is that sometimes you don't end up with that person But that's not a failure.
No.
Because life will present you all the opportunities to be with all the energies that would have stopped you from being with that person. So you can be with them.
Yeah.
So in the moment right now, if I share it because my greatest challenge previous to Joe was being with Jackie with all my shut off stuff.
Yeah.
You know, so as I clear all that and open that up, I feel closer to her all the time. I feel more when I think of her, I feel love, you know, and I feel gratitude, and I feel, you know, huge honour and respect that we've had 2 children together. And now that I don't say my wife and my ex-wife, I say my first wife and my wife, you know, because it's like I wouldn't have learnt this if I didn't learn that.
You wouldn't be who you are now without that. Yeah.
And by the way, I had monumental screw-ups in our relationship that stemmed from what I didn't deal with. You know, so that gave us a chance to heal that together, which healed it for us and that.
It's a willingness, isn't it, to keep.
And I still feel like I've brutalised it while I'm talking about it, because it still feels so much more sensitive than that.
Well,
you know,
the thing is that everything and everyone around us are playing out exactly what we need to move on to the next part.
It's nothing outside of yourself.
It's nothing outside of ourselves. So everything that's happening around you is for you, not to you, for starters. So there should never be any blame on anyone, or you know, you never should feel like people are doing things to you, you know. And sometimes it's hard because you know, a lot of the time we hurt, and the hurt usually comes from something we've experienced in the past, and but it all comes back to you. And I think in relationship, that's the biggest part of you know, of the relationship in general, is being able to see that every part is for you.
Remember that Gary Zukav saying, an authentic relationship is a partnership between 2 equals that exist to support each other's spiritual growth.
Yes.
And when we first came across that, I remember Maddie White saying, "You've got to watch this guy," and it was Gary Zukav on Oprah. You've got to watch this guy. And Maddie,
he was all about love too.
Yes, and he was so gentle and quiet and still, and he opened it up to the world just before Eckhart opened it up. So he was the first example, and Eckhart was even freer. So Gary was in that space and working his way through it so beautifully. I remember listening, going, yes. But an authentic relationship is a partnership between 2 equals that exists to support each other's spiritual growth. And what I'm finding is that our relationships become more and more authentic. Because of that, so is mine with you. And so is mine with Jackie. You know, so is mine with my kids, mine with my parents. And then on a certain day when ours isn't, when we're struggling a bit, I might sit down to do a clearing session with someone to help them out. And as I bring an authenticity into that relationship, that connection in that moment, and just reflect back to them so they can free out, I come back more authentic for Bailey, but Charlie, you know, Tej, Chrissy, whoever it is, Joe. So I just feel like everything. I walked through the shops one day, and you know that carnival, the House of Mirrors?
Oh, yes.
When you go through the carnival ride, the House of Mirrors. And I walked through Burleigh shops one day on my own. And I shared this with you, and I was so excited. I'm not sure anyone really understood what I got. But I'm walking through, and I must have been so open for whatever reason. And this person smiled in front of me, and I saw myself, and you know, but they were direct reflection. And then there's someone else walking sideways across on an angle, and I went, oh, I can see that part of them that's reflecting me, but it's not as directly. And then someone off to the side, and all of a sudden I went, oh, and the whole shopping centre was like being a house of mirrors. And some reflect you directly, and some look quite different to you, but they reflect via another reflection. So the source of the reflection comes primarily through the one that you that's right in front of you, that you've opened up to the most, but everybody's reflecting you through those other reflections. And I think I ended up sailing across the ground and not touching the ground. I was like, oh my God, everybody's me, and we're all each other.
I'm actually trying not to spin out.
That's the magic, isn't it? I just quickly on what you're saying too, because I think it'll put some of the pieces together. But for me, I was super insecure and a super jealous person when we first met, and you know, everything, and Trev was the perfect person to
bring all that up.
bring all of that up.
What man with an entourage of 50
Yes.
I was going to say like a harem or something. Like, oh look, they're just all around there, you know. Like, oh my God.
Absolutely. So it was my
which is where I derive my confidence from. my false sense of confidence. Well, you're going to have to get rid of that to be, be with me. Well, you're going to have to get rid of that insecurity to be with, which was both insecure.
Yeah,
basically.
yeah. So
Sorry,
throughout our whole relationship, majority of the time I was constantly in like a fight or flight mode constantly, because I was literally trying to look after myself, but also trying to keep an eye on him, like that was in my mind. That was the thoughts of going on in my mind, which just kept me never in my body.
Can we just clarify, this is all fairly early on?
Very early on. Yes, we're talking,
no need for people to know that. That's a long time ago.
So hence now where we're at now, in the relationship that we sit in now, it's like, we've been through so much that for me personally, outside of the relationship, is that I have so much more certainty in myself.
Yeah.
And this has only happened in the last couple of years. And all of the stuff that I once would have been jealous of or fought or argued with Trevor about, or, hated somebody for, or all of that's just literally dropped away. And it's like, but it's because the reason I'm bringing this up is because you're talking about the reflection side, and that all these people are teaching us around us. But it's like, I feel like I've filled so many of those voids inside of me now that I'm getting me back, and it's like,
oh, you're returning home. Yeah. And that is an amazing point in recognition of what you just said, of the goal of pursuing the journey, isn't it? Pursuing the responsibility, the connection,
sticking
to actually uncover enough of our layers to go, oh, here I am.
it just feels so nice.
Yeah.
I think we came to each other incomplete.
Oh,
And look,
really?
yeah, and
looking fucking hot, both of them.
yeah.
That was, even that is like part of the facade.
Absolutely.
It's like, oh, look, I'm good looking, or I've got a great body. Don't look at anything else. Just look at that. Avoid.
And I only said that because that's often what so many, or even every day, people are evaluating themselves on that premise of how they're appearing, and we've mentioned social media so many times, but as reference in that. But what you were just saying about the reflection, the hall of mirrors in the shopping centre. I mean, do we really ever see ourselves? Like the saddest thing is people with body dysmorphia. Like, they never see themselves how beautiful they are, and they destroy themselves based on what they think they are.
Yeah, no.
And
absolutely.
Heart to you if this is anything that challenges you.
There's a curiosity in here, and that is that what you just shared was so beautiful, Jo, that you, I think what I was saying, that you're the central reflection for me.
Yeah.
And I was the central reflection for you.
Absolutely, yeah.
So it was the place that the most of the work got done.
Yes.
Yeah.
You can do the work all around the place,
Yeah.
but the courage to expose yourself at certain stages of your life to go, I'm going to open up to everything you're reflecting back to me.
Yeah.
That's a lot of courage.
It is, and because you face your whole self, everything, all your protection mechanisms and all the stuff that is the rawness. I had a big problem with the truth. Like, I was not good with the truth. So I would always be, I felt telling the truth would get me in trouble.
Yeah.
Telling the truth would...
Or people would leave.
Yeah, they'd leave. They'd see me for what I really was. And the more I had that, the more I then do things that actually, if I do tell the truth, I am screwed. She's gone for sure,
And there's the thing about sometimes telling the truth, you don't want to disappoint people because, that might not be enough either. If it's my truth, that's all.
Well, and so out of the relationship with Jack was that I never gave her the honour of me telling the truth, so she could have the honour of saying, well, I care about you anyway.
Yeah.
So I did a disservice to her in that part of it, but later on I was like, tell you the truth about anything, but in a way, a sister comes along and goes, all right, tag in, I'll help him get to the truth,
Yes.
And I was, for whatever reason, I was more willing to do whatever, and that's why I said the connection was always there.
Yeah.
The Cranberries song Dreams was our song.
It's a gorgeous song.
Yeah.
And And every single way, my life's changing in every single day. Every single day, my life's changing in every single way since you come into my world. It's like, that's the essence of it. I'm paraphrasing, getting it wrong.
Yeah, I'm
But-
not going to sing it to you.
Oh,
Sorry.
I would sing that song and just bawl out crying because, as I said before, Joe turned my world upside down until I could stand the right way up, and it stayed upside down forever because we went through so much stuff. Like I had thoughts of, should I be with Jackie, and have I messed up completely because there was things that I hadn't resolved or understood, or spiritually we still could look after each other, So it wasn't about relationship; it was about healing.
Yeah.
Phew, that hits me
that's-
too. It was about
feeling that.
deep healing. It was about my own connection to myself and to my higher self and to source and everything. And I think Keith and I were talking about it this morning, that when you're born, Keith remembers, he probably won't mind me sharing this, but he remembers being really young in the cot or the crib, and his mum and dad looking at him with so much love, and he felt the love of them looking at him,
Beautiful.
and he looked back at them with the love.
Yeah.
But the strange trap was that they saw him as a source, because he came along, planned, and here he is, the beautiful little boy and the apple of their eye and everything. And I know with Bailey, when you had Bailey, so you see this person as the source. Oh my God, I've got my source. And they reflect back, and there's this pure love, and he saw them as the source. But then that sets us up to disappoint each other.
Yeah.
And there's constant disappointment afterwards, because source is shining through mum and dad to us, and source is shining through daughter and son to us. But it's not, if we make them the source, they can only let us down, and then we let them down by setting them up to let us down. So I'm
We're
just
constantly looking outside of ourselves for that fulfillment kind of thing.
And I realised while we're reflecting each other, what the biggest thing that's happened in the last few years is our connection to source.
Yeah.
Both to the mother.
Yeah.
We both call it the mother. We both feel divinely connected to the mother, and we both probably more true to that
than anything. Yeah.
Like, it's not like if I said, Joe, I want you to come here, she'd, oh, sorry, I've got to go over there, because that's where mother's telling me to go, which in this instance is a divine inspiration, her own divine feminine. And likewise, hon, I don't think I need to go there, I think I need to go over there. And you might go through a little disappointment, but then when that loop closes a day later or an hour later or a week later, it's like more love than ever.
That's
and
so true. And the other thing too on that same thing is when you're fully connected with that, whatever you want to call that, God, source, self, whatever, I have so much more, and I was talking to Amanda about this the other day, I have so much more understanding and compassion for others. It's just literally flowing out of me more now. I'm looking at people, and instead of being angry or pissed off or disappointed, I'm looking at them going, oh God, I feel for you, I see you, what's going on for you, why are you reacting like this? It's like it's because there's not a part of me that's feeling, or there's no void in me any longer that has to point and blame, or it's like
separate out, because it's easy to do that because you can see there's a difference.
Absolutely. I just constantly just go, oh wow, look, how are you going?
Eckhart Tolle, when he was asked quite some time ago, do you still have emotion? And he said, well, I just cried at a movie yesterday. And he said, I thought, why am I crying? He said, I'm crying because I can feel the pain that the world's going through. But he doesn't cry for his own pain anymore. Like, it's not, it's just this pain of feeling the world and feeling the connection. When I think of it, one of the most divine examples left on the planet is the Christ consciousness. That how he lived or walked, take out all the stories that were distorted. That he lived in the oneness. And how did he heal? There's talks about that he said that he healed because he saw the oneness in the person. He saw their divine perfection and them as part of source. And while he was in their presence, he'd say, well, are you ready? Do you want to heal? And if they said yes, he'd say, well, hop up, because he saw them as whole. He didn't see them as needing healing. He saw them as already perfect. Do you want to let that go? Let this thing go? So it's a really fascinating study on
beautiful man.
On the beautiful man. And then I see the Buddha and I see Eckhart Tolle. Like, he's been one of the most profound inspirations to me, because his words have come from presence. He doesn't write about presence, he writes from presence. So he could write gobbledygook and you go, I feel so free, so
He's very
I think it's an inspiration to go, there's not these divine figures from a few thousand years ago that no one can ever aspire to. It's actually, they were saying very simple things, and that is we can walk in grace and humility, and we can feel what other people are going through. And each day you do, you actually feel more free yourself. You feel more pain and you feel more free. Instead of, no, I feel no pain, I'm above it all. It's like, no, you feel it and it heals.
We've talked about this before, like sometimes when you're in the most pain is when you feel most alive, and then you can identify that the pain isn't actually really the thing, it's the feeling alive. But that it's a bit of a disservice that we've put people like Tolle and Buddha and Jesus on a platform, separated them out from us, because you miss everything that you've just shared, that where they are, how their connection to source, and how that serves us by being in that same space and seeing ourselves as whole, as apart from, instead of seeing ourselves as broken or
which is the first thing, you're born a sinner, like you're told in religion, which we're not religious, but you're born a sinner.
Everybody's
and it's like, that's a great place to come back from. Let's start from the bottom of the barrel. But I even said it to Keith this morning. I remember being, I didn't remember this. I've worked my way back to a feeling of feeling separate from, call it source, separate from love, separate from presence. And I remember being connected with it when I was really, really young. It's that memory starting to come back, and I can't remember the moment that I first separated from it, whether maybe dad and mum were upset with each other or something happened with my sister. I don't know. It's just something where I would have gone, and I had a reaction, and then that reaction took me out of connection. But I do remember, I could feel this morning, the part of me that's always, as soon as I've gone disconnected, separate, I've always had this thing inside of me, unseen until this morning, that is, I'll then go desperately into a state of trying to get connection back.
Right.
And that's through all the wrong sources. And the very first thing I would do was, and I noticed this morning, was I would go into blame. Well, I have to get connection back. I have to assign cause to someone else or something else.
Why this has happened.
So as soon as I go into blame, I'm now disconnected myself from source, because
it's outside. You put
it's
it
outside
yourself. That's
but
so interesting.
I hadn't let myself feel the feeling of, oh no, I'm separating. I think everyone who's listening to this has had those moments where you feel fully clear. You go, oh my God, I feel amazing. And then someone says something, you go, no. And it's like, whether if you want to call it God, I've lost God. If you want to call it source, I've lost source of the universe. I've lost love. No. And we start reeling out of control.
And grappling at something
instead of going, that reeling is the thing that actually disconnected us in the first place. So we're ultimately learning how to be with today what I couldn't be with yesterday. Someone says, you're a wanker, well, fuck you, well, today I can say, oh, thanks.
Maybe I was, maybe I wasn't, but it doesn't.
I can see what you're saying. Are you okay? How are you?
That's so interesting. We're gonna because we've go back to the questions. We'll probably move past the questions, but I'm going to ask you anyway, because it'll probably stimulate something, I'm sure. So throughout the awakening, we know that the shifts have been massive with you, just with, and I think that would probably have a lot to do with the sporting background as well, just with how far you came in that area. That when you saw Keith and he started operating these worlds and you started feeling what you were opening very quickly, probably a little bit quicker than most. Yeah. So when did you first notice a shift in your thoughts about the world around you? Like, did you start questioning things then, or were you still in that competitive space and it was very internal for you? The shift was more internal.
That's a really good question. And the first thing that comes to mind is when we were on Section 1 course, the very first one, and you were dealing with some pretty big childhood stuff over one side of the room, and I was dealing with broken marriage and relationship over the other side of the room. And I worked my way through. Every time a concept would come up, they'd say, how does that relate to Jackie? Because with Joe, no, it doesn't exist. We're golden. We're glowing. Look, she's the apple of my eye. You know, we were fresh. It was just all covered up. You know, it's going to come in later. Whatever we don't deal with is going to come in later. And I remember Colin, he'd said that, you know, what happens is you'll be with this relationship after the honeymoon period, you know, things will get tense. And 10 years later, you'll be like, I can't be with this person, blah, blah, blah. And then, you know, you'll be like, all right, well, she was blonde, you know, blah, blah, blah. I'm going to get with a brunette next time, you know. And then I found the one. She's different. I've checked out her background. We didn't have Google back then, so you had to phone around and
ask your friends.
So, yeah, you couldn't look at the social media status. So check out their background. And then 2 years later, same stuff's happening. She's yelling at you for the same things.
Yeah.
Oh, I can't handle this. Or I'm out. It's
You're
a redhead. I'm going for a redhead. You know? And she's more sporting. She's into adventure, you know. And then honeymoon's exactly the same. And then 3 months later, same thing, getting yelled at.
So a bit of a repeating pattern. Is that what you're talking about?
And he basically introduced the concept of common denominator, that you are the common denominator, back to things being a reflection, that they'll repeat. And if we push it away, it'll come up in business. If we push it away, it'll come up in relationship. If we push it away, it'll come up in our health. But it'll keep coming up until we deal with it. And so every time we would go into a process in this whole weekend seminar, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, they'd say, look, Trev, talk about how it relates to Jackie. So these different concepts, I'd free out and release, oh yeah, you know, in relation to Jackie, and I'm feeling closer to her, more connected. And then finally the last process is Colin came over and I was working with a lady and he said, he came over and he said, now Trev, how are you going with Jackie? And I'm like, yeah, good, you know, but I can't do much else. She lives on the other side of the world now, you know, and you know, but I feel a lot closer to her and I understand a lot. And he goes, it's got nothing to do with Jackie. How you feel about it's to do with you, you know, I think there's a bit more. This last process, I want you to go for it and go to town. Yeah. And the process was pointing and blaming. Okay. Right, and we just finished so on that before. That the first thing I'd drop into is blame. As soon as I felt separate, I would go into blame. So the last of 5 major processes, and so what happened was and it was Liz that asked me these questions, and she'd say, "Come on, Trev, what else is there?" And I go, "No, I'm pretty good there. No. Is there anything that you still, you know?" And I go, "Well, it did annoy me the way she'd do this. Fantastic. What else? Well, yeah, and then this." And then it kind of and I started going, right. And next minute, and there's this and there's that. And all the pointing and blaming came out. Yeah. The idea wasn't, don't see where you're doing it. Get it out, you know, like just unsuppress it. Yeah. Purge it. Yeah. And then all of a sudden I said something about Jack that I just went, and I just spat it out. Can't remember what it was, which is the nature of these things. And I went, bleh. And then everything flipped. And everything I said about her was actually about me. And I went, oh! And I immediately saw her standing there and I had this huge love. Like love was restored. At that level, I was like, oh, you were the only one trying to tell me. Yeah. So you were the one I pushed away. Yeah. Because everyone else said, yes, Trev, yep. Because I was the guy. Yeah. And so you went, no, something's not right. And through our own best efforts was trying to say, no, wanker, you know, I know you better than this, and that's bullshit, you know. So it turned out from her being the one that wasn't there for me to being the one that was truest. So it flipped the whole thing spiritually. And that's when that happened. The world changed. The way I saw the world changed. Yeah. And literally I was sitting there and I came in with glandular fever. Oh, wow. That's an emotional swamp tidal wave. I'd found out and Jack was living in Hawaii with Chrissy and Tej, and we'd speak on a Sunday night. That was it. And I Thursday, the Wednesday I got a blood test, found out I had glandular fever. The doctor said, go to sleep for the weekend, book in for me Tuesday. On Monday, I want you to get a full blood count and come back and see me on Tuesday. I went in on the Thursday. It was actually the Thursday morning. I went into Keith's practice, and he had a locum there, someone looking after his practice while he was away with the Australian Swim Squad, World Championships. And I went in, and Chris said to me, you need to do the seminar on the weekend. And I'd been avoiding it because Keith had told me. I called him TJ twice though. Yeah. Keith told me to do it. Brothers. Yeah, it's a strange thing. Keith had told me to do it. And I was like, oh yeah, you know, somehow I was still holding on. Anyway, I went, okay, I'm doing it. So because I'd already done the session work with Keith, I could go straight in. But I went home and I said to Jo, I'm doing this course. She goes, I'm doing it. It's like, you're not going anywhere without
that
me.
insecure part of me was like, I'm coming to
But
it.
also, this will be fun. I want to be in an adventure with
Yes.
you too.
Well, there was the you're not
double,
getting
double.
you're not getting out of my sight. But
Yeah.
the bigger
Yes.
part was I'm going
Yes.
wherever you go because that's what I actually signed up for.
Yeah.
'Cause
Yeah.
that was the
So
connection
much,
that
yeah.
Both of
wasn't
those.
understood yet. It was
Yeah.
like, no, we came together to go through this portal together,
Yeah.
and it was like, so she was like, I'm in, because it felt much more good than it did.
Oh,
not letting you on the
yeah.
side. That didn't really feel like it.
Yeah.
But Jo had to do.
Well, there's the two veins. There's the one that the artery pumping
Yes.
to the heart, and
Yeah.
there's the vein draining away. It's like both of those things. Isn't
Yes.
it? You know, like yeah.
yeah.
Absolutely.
So
Yeah.
Jo hadn't done the previous work, so
No.
she had to do this introductory interview, whatever.
Yeah.
Got that done. Friday night, we turn up. We've gone through the whole process, and I've said I've got
Dive in the
glandular
deep
fever.
end.
Now we're in the fifth one. I'm blaming. It's flipped. I'm like, oh my god, I can see Jackie. I can see the love, and it wasn't. And I was like, it changed the whole world because, I can see Jackie, but I don't see I have to be with her. I see love. What's that? Because love was always that's your person.
Yeah.
You know, you lock in, and it was like, no, I can see her. What's
like
this?
seeing love a different way.
Love a different way.
Yeah.
It was actual love, not
Love a different way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
you know, not love of who you're in a relationship with. And so, which started a whole series of things I had to understand more later. But as I'm sitting there, so now I'm freeing out. So the truth once again sets you free. Everything's flipped, and all of a sudden I go, ugh, and I've got this strange look on my face. And Liz says to me, Trevor, what's that? What are you seeing? And I went, I'm feeding TJ in the middle of the night. Yep, and what's happening? I feel really run down and exhausted, and I'm trying to keep Jo separate from Jackie and Jackie separate from Jo, and the kayakers separate from lifesavers because I'd switched to kayaking, and I'm like trying to keep everyone separate, and I've closed myself down, and I've got my son sleep alone with me in the middle of the night, feeding him with a bottle. There's
Very
TJ
tender
again.
moment, yeah.
And
makes
so she went, and what happened? And I went, she said, did you make any decisions? And I went, oh my God. I decided if I keep this up, I'll end up with glandular fever.
Oh.
Wow.
And literally the next morning, I wrote in my diary, really run down, feeding TJ in the middle of the night last night. I'm not sure how I can keep this up. I'm going to end up sick. I don't remember the thought, but I reflected it in my diary in the morning.
Yeah.
And I literally got glandular fever. And then so I went, oh my God. And this thing started tingling, the energy inside of me.
Yeah.
And she goes, is there any other decisions? And I went, pardon my French against Mum, if you're listening to this. But I went, the next thought was, fuck them, that'll get them all off my back.
It's a
So
way out.
I will
Yeah.
get glandular fever. And the next thought was, fuck them, that'll get them off my
Lock
back.
it in. Lock
Yeah.
it in.
And so I had no memory of it until months later, I've actually got glandular fever. Had it for, this period of time, didn't know.
Yeah.
And
Soldering
so
on.
my whole body tingled and it left me.
Yeah.
And I went, oh my God. And then Colin was waiting for that to happen. And then he goes, all right, afternoon break. And then, Trev, before you go, do you want to share? And I got up the front and I went, oh my God, I realised I still love Jackie and she's beautiful. And I'm still love Jo. And I'm like trying to explain what I'm saying.
It was like just like this washing machine of words.
Yeah.
Excitement.
Yeah, and I don't have glandular fever. I never did have, like this. And I'm like saying all this stuff. And then I pause, and in a moment, there's like 20 people helping in the room and 20 people going through the course. And I realised the 20 people helping, volunteering,
Yeah.
are all going,
Smiling.
nodding, smiling, going, yes, he's got it. And out of the 20 people in the room, 10 people are going, yes, because they've got their freaking. Other 10 people are going, what the hell is he talking about? And I started slowing down as I'm going, oh my God. And that changed everything because I went, what's the world? And it's all
Yeah.
energetic and it's a quantum field and people are conscious or they're not and all this sort of stuff. And so, by the way, but just before I started, when I said Jackie's on the other side of the world, blah, 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 Colin said, it's nothing, blah, 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 it's about you. If you go for it, she'll ring you and she'll say, what have you been up to?
Yeah. Yes.
And we went home really late and it's now really late in Hawaii. It would have been midnight by the time we got home when I'd normally ring at 6 o'clock.
Yeah.
And we walk into the house and the phone's ringing. And I pick up the phone. I go over and it's Jackie on the phone in Hawaii where I'd normally call.
Yeah.
And she's like, Trev. And I'm like, Jack. And she's like, I was just ringing. I was just wondering, what did you do this weekend? And And I go, well, actually, I did that course that you did, and blah, blah, with Joe, and I did it, and, and I realised that, and she went, and I went, I didn't say anything, and I just went, after that, I said, why? And she said, well, it's just that I realised, and she took responsibility for the same 5 things in the same order. I realised I did this, 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 and this, and I was like, oh my God, you didn't have to do that. Like, it was just love.
Yeah.
And
So
feel emotional
freeing.
when I say it, like being true to a being.
Yeah.
Not true to that woman, but the being, and
you're not needing to re-engage and be entangled again. It's that literally as simple as that. You're being true to the being.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
How powerful is that moment?
And then Jack said straight away, hey, I've decided I'm going to bring the kids back. Joe must be an amazing woman. It's time they met Joe and all this sort of stuff. And is it okay if I go to LA for a little while and do some stuff there? Like asking if it's okay, I'm like, of course, yes,
Yeah.
So the shift of
kindness comes in.
She'd shifted something, then I shifted something, and Joe, and then we're all shifting at each day. Someone shifts something, and then everything gets a little bit better. But the whole world changed, and I went to the doctor, got the blood test the next day on the Monday, went back on the Tuesday, walked in, and the doctor said, oh, come in. They haven't got the blood test. They're just calling up for it now. Lay down. I've laid down. He's going, have you found some miracle cure? And I go, why? And he said, you've got no symptoms whatsoever. And he's looking at these things. He's got 5 days later. You've got no symptoms whatsoever. He said, if I didn't know, I'd say you didn't even have glandular fever. You never had it. And I go, and knock on the door. So I went, I did a course, and and I'm trying to explain it, and the door knocks, interrupts us. She hands over the test. We go sit behind the table, and I remember it vividly. I could actually write a movie and get the scene exactly right because I can see it so perfectly.
Yeah.
And he looked at the first page, flipped it to the second page, flipped it to the third page, flipped it back to the second, back to the first, and put it on the table. And he looked at me and he said, there must be some mistake. And I said, why is that? And he said, well, this test says not, and I'd had it twice.
Yeah.
He said, not only does this test say you don't have glandular fever, it says you've never had it.
Wow.
Which is medically
not
impossible.
Yeah.
It's not medically
because there's always
impossible.
a trace.
It's not medically impossible. It's medically understanding impossible.
Yeah.
And I knew because I felt the thing leave me. My whole body vibrated, and I felt heckles and prickles and an energy left me. And the vibrational reality that created that glandular fever, including the blame attached to it, the opportunity to get it off scot-free and blame others and continue, that whole thing disappeared. And vibrationally what returned was who I am, was more open and curious. I wasn't free yet, but I was open and curious.
Yeah.
And I needed that to come back, and that changed everything.
Yeah, you restored something within you. Yeah, that actually restored something in the quantum field.
In the quantum field. And that in itself is a very powerful dynamic to acknowledge for everybody, that power that we have in ourselves to heal if we're brave enough to step into that space.
Well, who are we really? So even I keep saying it, it's really helping me lately, but the 3rd, 4th and 5th density or dimension.
Yes.
If we just call it dimension to make it simple, 3rd dimension roughly being the body, and we think of ourselves as the body.
Yeah.
The 4th dimension being our history, it's attached to all the duality, good, bad, right, wrong, win, lose, success, failure, ugly, pretty, fat, skinny, dumb, smart, rich, poor, like all this judgment.
Yeah.
And then all the wars are being fought from that place of need to control and all the misconceptions that have been driven through the media. So we've got our own 4th dimensional soup.
And it's time, so it all of those things hold us somewhere.
There's a past.
In a fixed time.
Yeah.
There's a past of like, I don't want that anymore. So we're projecting into I want this. So we're trying to control this moment to get a better future from a bad past.
Yeah.
And then we're screwing ourselves. Me blaming was actually creating more separation. So me blaming for me being separate was the reason I stayed separate forever. Until I started till the day that I actually got all the blame out and it flipped. I went, everything I was blaming is in me. And so the 5th density or dimension is the idea that that's who we really are. We're beings. We're still on a journey. There's still duality. Sixth density, no duality, but 5th dimension, duality. But it's no longer got that right and wrong attached to it.
Yeah.
So it's not winning or losing. We're not better than anybody else, and they're not worse. There's no pedestal and superiority, inferiority, and everything else. So that's kind of been.
We're being.
Yeah. So this is like this thing we're going through on the planet. We're all sharing with each other slowly but surely to go. We're not the soup, and we're not the body. We are the spirit. and the rest is what we can bring freedom and love and connection through the mind and into the fourth dimension, into the third dimension. We don't escape it.
That's the
We just bring the
allowance,
truth
isn't
into it.
It's the allowing of each other just to be wherever we need to be. There's no holding anyone anywhere.
Loving what is.
Yeah.
So in this awakening in the world changing for you, Trevor, was there people or things that you had to leave behind in this process of being you?
Yeah, I first thing that happened was I was going out after races and providing the drink card.
Yeah.
Trev's here, they got the drink card, or me or Guy Leach.
We'll just call you Elvis.
It was like Elvis has left the building, and it was Grant Kenny, then it was Guy Leach, and then it was me, and we'd all go together, and then it was chaos. But when I first went through the awakening, I didn't, and we were together in this whole process. I didn't want to go out after the race. I wanted to go home.
Yeah.
I wanted to wake up tomorrow when the sun was getting up, or shortly within 2 hours after that. I hadn't quite got back to that yet. But and so the first thing that happened was my mates had all said, he's changed. And all they could attach it to was, all they could think of through their filters was, he's a born-again Christian. He must be a born-again
So they put
Christian.
you in a corner of...
Yeah.
Well, they didn't understand. They didn't know. All they knew was that I deserted them.
Yeah.
The party was gone. It was over. It wasn't the same. I pulled my essence out of it.
Yeah.
And
they missed you.
they miss me. And so I knew they'd say, oh, you've changed. And I go, yep. And then I wouldn't say I had to leave them behind. I had to be willing to leave them in that town while I made my way to the next town. And went down the path and got to the next town and built a place for them there, cleared some land and said, come visit, and then all those mates that were amazing mates, all at one stage when their relationships went through challenges, they would all contact me and say, hey mate, can you give me a hand? Yeah. And that was the beautiful thing, is that
they knew
I
you
do
were there,
think you don't leave them behind, you just leave them over there.
Well, it was a funny time too, because throughout that space, it was like there was a while where they all absolutely wrote you off.
Yeah.
And then, like you just said, and then in times of need, you would be the first they'd reach out to. So it's like you stood somewhere for them.
The door was open.
Yeah. It was always open.
Yeah.
Which was perfect for me, because I went into the dysfunctional world when my group of mates as a young guy turned around and chased me through the club and flushed me and initiated me. So I basically went, I can't trust any of my mates. They've been planning this behind my back. Yeah. They think I'm a sissy girl because I'm riding my pink girl's bike. Yeah. Because my really tough black Melvin Star bike had been broken in a car accident. So I'm riding my sister's bike, and I hear them over talking about riding his pink girl's bike, and it's about me, and then they turn around and chase me and everything else. So it established in my mind that you can't trust your mates, and that your mates will rag on you unless you're the winner. Yeah. Blah, blah, blah. And because the winner was the one leading the show. And so years later, when I'm the winner and I'm now they're ragging me behind my back and saying, oh, yeah, whatever. Oh, how's what he said the other day? He's lost the plot or whatever. Yeah. Two other friends that go, oh, God, it was perfect because it delivered the original pain back to me to say, can you be there for them? Or do you want to prove them wrong, get angry at them, go further into the spiritual and go F you, you had
to walk back through what you didn't face earlier on. I
had to actually feel it again, that I'm not loved by my mates, seemingly.
Seemingly.
But I was. They actually loved me and adored me, but they just felt confused. And I'd kind of in some ways probably it spelt the end of that game. Yeah. So that game died of being able to get away with that and justify it. And we'll all tell each other that we're doing the right thing. Yeah. So...
and often there's that thing where, like you said, like the initiation, teasing you about the pink bike or calling you a born-again Christian. People are acting within conditioning and stories of their own to be falling into those games. Yes. So it takes one person to be brave and stand in their truth, or stand separate in their truth, but still be open. Yes. For that game to complete, and their conditioning break a little bit as well, isn't it?
I feel freer just talking about it.
Yeah.
I feel lighter.
I'm having flashbacks.
I was going to say, it actually feels like this is one of the crossroads that you get to in the point of where you want to go. you know, when you are awakening and when you're noticing everything changing around you. And sometimes you have to stand, and I think about this now with the young girls that I teach, you know, in these small girl groups, you know, where everything's collapsing around them and they're going into chaos, and they know in themselves that, I can't play this anymore.
Try and navigate somehow.
Yeah, that there's something bigger inside of you that says, no, I have to stand over here. I just have to stand over here and do my thing.
Even if it means I don't have friends or someone to sit with at lunchtime.
Watch it all kind of.
I go to the library.
Apart. Yeah, not be the cool kid anymore.
Yeah.
So what's that feeling arising between the three of us now? Like it's a feeling of like, didn't we all fall into this?
So
like, isn't this the
times,
game that you end up like that separate? I felt separate, and then I went reeling into blame and whatever else. It's like that. Life keeps presenting with the opportunity with. No matter who deserts you or what happens, do you stay connected to source or to your own self?
Yeah.
Stay truth. Even if you don't feel fully connected to that source, you feel a bit disconnected, but you know the path.
Yeah.
You know, stay the path until it shines back through.
Yeah.
But it's a really interesting feeling. There's another little story attached to it, is that I all of a sudden was working away, doing one-on-one work with people, and Joe and I were separate for 3 years in the middle of all this. Well, I'd never been separate. I'd never been alone. So Jackie and I were married at 18, 19, then straight into a relationship with Joe. And then years later, the silver lining in wondering what this was all about was that I needed to actually be on my own for a while and know who I was without having a partner to fulfill me.
Yeah.
So for 3 years, I worked putting on courses and helping and working my way through my stuff without any relationships or not playing the field or anything like that. It was really interesting. And there was a person that came in at the end that reflected some things back to me that brought me back to clear some things, that then I was even closer with Joe after it all. But there was this amazing 3 years. In the middle of that period, I was in this two bedroom unit. I had one bedroom set up for the session room. The other bedroom was set up with the king size bed, 2 singles either side, and the kids would come over to Dad's house and we'd all sleep in a row and go woohoo, and eat noodles. And eat noodles because it's about all I could afford at the time. Because I threw everything else away. I had no mobile phone. I had an answering service. I had no email address. This is in like 2005 to 8 or something like that. It was, so it was a really interesting time when people were getting into that. I went the other way.
Yeah.
And anyway, one day I'm just on a session with somebody and they've left, and I walk out the front and I'm working with these incredible people from around the world, like really amazing people.
Yeah.
And I walk out the front and the sun's shining and I'm standing at the front. I'm going, oh my God, I'm living my best life.
Yeah.
I'm not with anybody at the moment. I've got hardly any money, I've got a car I don't think I had a car. I had a car that had rust and I tied the boards on the roof because the roof racks didn't work. And I had nothing that I had that made me feel secure before. And I'd never felt so secure and free. And I literally had the feeling, oh my God, I'm through. Like I'm going to come through. I'm on my way out the other side. Like I've gone in the big dip and I'm on my way out.
Yeah.
Right? And largely to a degree, that was the truth.
Moment.
Yeah. Had nothing, didn't need anything, but had everything.
Yeah. And
I walked inside.
Yeah.
Answering machines flashing from the session, and there's like 8 flashing messages, and I'm like, that's a bit bizarre. So I press play, and my buddy Dwayne, Trevor, you okay? Who I idolised and loved and would do anything for, Trevor, you okay? And likewise him with me. Yeah. And we've been through so much together, like soulmates. And are you okay? I just, all right, call me when you can. And then Joe, Trev, are you okay? Just checking on you. I just got a call from Dwayne, just making sure you're okay. And then Dwayne again, and then Joe again, and then Dwayne, and then...
Oh, wow.
And I'm like, whoa, so I ring Joe.
So the minute you're feeling okay and the world's at peace, everyone else is freaking out about you.
I'm coming out the other side. Like, I'm actually finally out that, and I'm like, I'm not free, but I'm in the area, I'm with the nothingness. I'm with the nothingness where I can, so I ring Joe, and she goes, you better ring Dwayne. She goes... He's been told by someone that you've had a mental breakdown, that you were just seen getting carted off in an ambulance to Gold Coast Hospital. I'm like, oh, wow. As far as I'm aware, I'm actually really good. I did have a mental breakdown, though. Like, I lost my mind.
Yeah, exactly. You're freed out.
And that, Niles Barkley song, I remember when I lost my mind. There was something so special about that day.
Oh, yeah, that's a great song. Yeah.
You know, and the words, if people listen to that words and go back and listen, it will get you dancing, because it's actually, if you've lost your mind, fantastic. You know, if you're the crazy one, keep going.
Yeah, keep going.
But I immediately rang Dwayne. He said, "Oh my God, thanks so much." And I have so much love for him. It's such a special friendship and relationship, isn't it? And we've been through so much together. But and he literally was a big reason why I stuck with it. You know, so I get emotional when I say that. But thank you, Dwayne, if you ever listen to this. But I said, "No, mate, I'm good." Blah, blah, blah. And I went, "Who told you? Who said that?" And he goes, "Oh, so-and-so." And so I rang them. "Hey, just letting you know I'm okay. Who said something?" And I tracked it all the way back to another really great mate.
Wow.
And I'm like, "What?" And it really got me to heal something on that day, because I'm like, that person is someone I show up in their life and help them and their family and everything else. I'm like, wow. So, okay. So life does this too. It's, wow, I don't understand it yet, but... You know, there's a separation feeling, or maybe I'm putting out a feeling of superiority, or I've left them behind. So this energy's come in and said, "Well, you haven't really, have you?" Because, you know. Yeah. So what I actually did was put more, I didn't tell that person I knew, and I just put more love towards them and checked in with them, and, you know. Yeah.
Because they kind of lost their mind in the,
they all said,
in the everyday sense,
lost their mate.
Construct a story around, that you've how you've changed. And how they're not a part of that. So
I kind of left them behind. Yeah. You know, and when you get out the other side, I was always that person, even when I raced. If I got out through the wave area, I wasn't waiting around for you. I'm going to get a massive lead, you know. And so that kind of manifested that I've broken through, and there was truth in that. But I think what I did was I made them feel like as if, I was better than I thought I was better than them, or, you know, and there was still a bit of blame of, now that I've got out of that. You know, so there's all these layers that I still had to let go of. So and I guess, highlighted that I wasn't fully free.
Yeah, and I guess where, like, you know, that part of what you live today is like, you know, your service aspect is still is areas of calling you back in, just to not always just for yourself, but for others.
And also eat some humble pie. And, you know, it sounds like I'm like, oh, this holier than thou guy. Like, I was being an ass too. Like, I was still winning at another level. You know, it's still carrying that energy. So
I guess
from a oneness perspective, it's like, if you really do you feel really close to these people? Do they feel close to you? Do you check in with them? You know,
how do we check in? Yeah, and there's FOMO on both sides of that, isn't it? Not from the say the person who created the story. That's a broken heart FOMO, isn't it? Kind of thing. You know, I've lost a mate, or this kind of thing. And but how you take it, like if you weren't prepared to look at it from the point of view of the other, again, you're missing out, because you're losing mates in the process. But, you know, by reaching in and sharing the love more back to heal the situation without the person even knowing,
because the truth is, you do love them. You know, so do you live like you love them?
Do you live like you love them?
Moment to moment. I had a question to ask really quickly. Does everyone feel the way I feel when they do this? I feel like I've got lost in the conversation.
Oh, yeah.
You know, like
that's
fully, but the space you two create is actually, because I've heard people say it, and I know it. I'm in your space all the time. I'm in your space, and we've been together a lot as a three, in beautiful spaces together. But something really different going on about the fact that the intention and purpose for doing this is to share with people. Because how many stories have I just shared that I've never shared before? There's 5, you know. Yeah, absolutely. I hope Jackie's okay with me sharing all the things, but you know,
she will love it.
But there's aspects Jackie. Of this that I've never shared with anybody, you know, which is, I suppose it's that's, you know, what is it? It's like, that's a shame in itself, because you don't share a truth that helps other people go, I can see that in me.
Yeah, and I think that's the reason why when I say it's not about the people. And I think people get caught up, and this is the area. It's like people get caught up in the emotions of people, and it's not about the people.
Because we've all got the same stuff.
We've all got the same stuff, and that's the beauty in it. Every single person, doesn't matter who we are, or whether we're in a deep relationship with somebody, or whether it's just your good friend. Yeah. Everybody's equal, and we all have whatever stuff you have is for you to learn and to get the lesson from, gain the lesson from.
But the thing, the beautiful thing about this is the resonancy. Like, every single person that's been in this space, like Joe and I both feel on such a high afterwards, but we also process so much afterwards, because our DNA has been activated and freed out, and
as is mine.
It's just it's an amazing experience to share in, and we genuinely
I can feel light coming in. Like I'm having all sorts of light experiences.
Yeah.
And old programmy sort of energy just kind of coming out of me.
Well, that's what it is, isn't it? It's all programs.
It's really, I've been really curiously feeling lately, and not talking to a lot of people about it, but the programs feel very electronic. They feel very digital. And it feels like the simulation of separation that we're going through was largely organic for a long time, but it feels like it's been hijacked by a digital frequency.
Yeah.
So the simulation of separation, the illusion of separation, is being perpetuated digitally now.
Yeah.
So it's on all our screens all the time. It's like, so there's a new energy involved in our process that maybe there wasn't before, which gives us a chance to see even more the way energy works in the world, so we can be a divine spark ourselves. But there is an energy that's very much AI. It's very, and I hear it all the time. It's like zit, 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 zit. But I can feel those things coming off me, and I can feel light coming in while we're talking. And there's something about the grace of sharing.
Yeah,
the grace of sharing.
So, because what would you say? The illusion is separation.
Yeah.
But when we share openly, people go, I've got that.
Yeah.
Oh, I can relate to that.
Yeah.
Oh, God, I had you on this pedestal and I can see you there now.
Yeah.
So that we're, separation and, sharing and vulnerability destroys the one illusion that can control us, which is separation.
Yeah. Yes.
It's the only one that can have power over us is separation from each other and from source. And so it seems pretty simple, doesn't it?
Absolutely.
I think, in a lot of communities, a lot of cultures, there's the holding the stick. Like when you gather, the person holding the stick gets to speak. But the stick is shared around. It's not monopolized. It's not only held by one person. Everybody gets to speak. And it's like what you've shared before, Joe, about the safe space that your family has created for the children. If we all have a safe space where we can share and we're received and we're heard, wow, that takes away so much struggle, doesn't it, straight away?
It's happening right now. We're talking about there's energy coming in, and it's like,
that's the podcast.
I feel freer.
Yeah, that's the whole reason we wanted to do the podcast, was so people had a safe space to be able to share their vulnerability.
But even that that you've created a safe space inside of yourself with self-forgiveness over a long period of time, and then as sisters, you've said, well, do we feel comfortable about doing this we can do it together, and now we can do it out to the masses. It's like it started back in your own journey to be vulnerable, and that's what's felt. So there's an invitation to be vulnerable that comes from way back behind you.
Yeah.
So no matter what you're creating in the day, the invitation's eternally sitting there in the two of you.
Yeah.
So it's like there's a part of your essence or spirit is like inviting me in to let go, spill all the beans. It's like, really be careful what I spill. Just quickly, I got invited to a global think tank a few years back, and I got invited down to this thing.
Just a global think tank.
Yeah, it was a group of people of like different experts in their field, and this particular lady said, I need you to be in this global think tank. And the way it sat and the way the conversation sat, we put a problem in the middle of the table, and everybody went and talked about this problem. Yeah. And I ended up actually being in the last seat. And it was really, I didn't realise till it started that the person that started was next to me, and it went the other way around the table.
Oh, wow.
And so as it went around, I was sitting there just kind of holding space and from a place of trying to be aware, Yeah. And I could feel the magic in each person. But each person was telling us, everybody else, how their area of expertise was going to solve the problem. And then, the digital guy's like, it's going to be all solved with technology, with AI, and the communications person was like, it's going to be about the communication and what messages we put out. And then the education person's going to be, it's all about educating the kids. And then the finance person was, what we need is the money to actually create programs And as it went all the way around the room, there's the health person. Yeah, well, there's medications, all this sort of stuff. And it went all the way around. Big
powerful concepts, big powerful systems, each of them.
And each one thinking it was going to save the day.
Yeah.
And what became really obvious to me, because I'm thinking, what have I got to offer? Because I'm an Iron Man. Let's become a thinker. Let's become a feeler. Let's become a seer. Yeah. Okay. I'm going to think, feel and see, you know, the way through this, because that's what an Ironman does, you know, like, you see the ocean and you find your way through it, and you got to do that multiple times.
Respond and act.
So anyway, by the time it got to me, it was really clear. The first thing I did was thank them all. I said, thank you. You're all so amazing. Firstly, I love what you said about this. I love what you said about that. I love what you said about this. Da, 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 da. But what had come through while they were talking was that if we were an indigenous tribe in North America, we would sit around that problem in the teepee, probably smoking a peace pipe or something.
Yeah, what's it called? Peyote.
Peyote, yeah, and which would definitely reveal the answers to a few problems and a few other things, I'm sure. I haven't ever done that, but I can imagine it would be like, but because all the dimensions would open up, and where the truth of what the real solution was. And I love Einstein. You cannot solve a problem on the same level of mind it was created.
Yes.
And also our great teacher said, you know, when you have a solution to a problem without a change of awareness, the solution will eventually become the problem. So every department had a solution to the problem, but the change of awareness was we're all in it together.
Yes.
And if you could embrace each other's solutions and even say, actually, I think you've got the best solution, you go first.
And we'll follow on after that and build on top of that.
And I can add this part to you, but I don't, you can see that more clearly. So it's whoever can see it more clearly.
Yeah. Wow.
So they would have looked at the problem and said, who can see the problem more clearly? And from the first place, the first port of call. And so when it got to me, that's all I said was, like, you guys are incredible. You know, I feel kind of humbled, blah, blah, blah. And I said, what I would suggest, though, is that I don't think it's any one person that's going to solve the problem. I think one of our traps is that we want all of our departments to shine and our industries to be the thing. And I think it's in our human nature that we want to be the one.
Yeah.
You know, but the one might be sitting opposite you, and we've all got little pieces, you know. So my suggestion would be that we all think tank who would go first in solving the problem, blah, blah, blah. And then it was this the moment, whatever it wasn't like me coming up with this divine inspiration. It was like coming through.
Yeah.
And then I was thinking, have I just really
did a pin drop?
you know, and then it was really quiet, and then it started. Oh my God, yes! And then it went organic from side to side to you're right, and and then it was often a cue for me. It was like 10 times in the next 20 minutes. Someone said, liked what Trevor said, and it wasn't me saying it. It was me seeing something, but something else coming through. But
you
it was
wove it together. You interpreted. You saw. Basically.
And I know in my purpose, you said right at the start, connecting people, and he was born to do it. And it was very obscure when you said that. The first line you wrote before we started, how do we describe Trevor? He brings people together, and he was born to do it. I'm like,
we didn't look at his website.
I've often been described as former world Ironman champion, star of Baywatch, but
oh my God.
you know, but
red speedos.
But that's the truth. Is that was probably one of the last messages that I got from my favourite teacher in my life was, you know what your purpose is, and you know that it's planetary, because I know that I like to see the whole thing, and that will infuriate Jo sometimes because she'll go, can't you just agree with me that we're angry at that person? I'm like, no, well, I see what there's going on there. You know, we've taught each other that, you know, in different areas, but I've always had this thing in me, like forgiveness is just sitting in the background, which I think is that Christ consciousness thing, is the part of us we all have it, and it's hovering there going, are you ready to forgive? And I say when I say forgive, I give that what you did was for me. You know, I forgive, you know, not I forgive you for how you made me feel, and I now on a pedestal of how good I am and letting you off the hook. And that's just
what
total
are you going to
bullshit.
do for me now that I've given you that?
That's bullshit. That's complete, utter, other than this didn't happen to me through you, it happened for me through you, and ultimately it happened by me and through me for me, and if I can have the good grace of learning from it, then something might happen for you too. Yes. You know, so.
And isn't it, and then that too, isn't it, sometimes, you know, I've probably experienced it myself, but also seeing that we don't want to forgive the other person because we don't want them to be free.
Yes.
You know,
it's not even us that doesn't want them to be free. It's the thing that's keeping us trapped. Doesn't want us or them to be free. And that saying, I used it at the Breath and Breakthrough so many times. If you want to if you want to dig a grave for someone else, make sure you dig 2. One for yourself, which is like if you're holding a grudge is like drinking poison expecting someone else to die.
Yeah.
If you want to dig a grave for someone else, dig one next to it because you're going to be in it with
It's
them.
a funny one too, because part of the lessons, and this is what we try and tell the kids all the time too, you know, because they'll have a breakthrough and they'll have a beautiful feeling, you know, oh my God, I feel so free, and now I go, oh, you know, you're at the top of one level, but you're about to start the bottom of another. And, you know, almost instantly, something will come in and it'll be like, fuck, you know, why is this happening? I just was there. And it's like, no, that's life, you know? And it's the energy field too. The energy field does not want you to be free. And that's part of the human experience on this planet is that experience of knowing that, you know, the energy field will constantly keep you on your toes.
Challenge you.
And will challenge you.
At another level, it wants you to be free.
Yeah.
But what it'll do, it will kill you.
Yes.
To actually make you find the part of yourself that you have to find and let go of the other part. So it's either free or dead.
Yeah.
The energy field, the game, the negative energy, what it comes through people. That's what I'm being sitting more and more and more. It absolutely, at a level, we have to acknowledge this thing wants me dead.
Yes.
Yeah.
You know, and it's like, oh, it wants that part of me dead.
Yeah.
That hook or that attachment or that belief or that rightness or that superiority. It wants me dead. It wants the humility back in or whatever.
Yeah.
And as soon as it's like that part of me dies,
Yeah.
that energy drops away, and then I'm like, oh, I can see the person now. And then the person shows up differently.
Yeah.
And no one's spoken to them or they haven't done a course or a seminar, and they go, oh, they send a message, sorry about what I said the other day. Or, you know, like, it's like, whoa.
Well, that's
it's
the
all
gift,
metaphysical.
Isn't it? It's like we talk about our gifts, you know, what have we got to share and all that, but it's all, that's the gift as well. It's like, once you push yourself through that challenge and face whatever it is it's challenging you with, then you get the gift, which is, you know, like the person showing up or the person ringing you or something opening up that just brings you so much joy inside. It might not be physically anything. It might be just the feeling of freedom.
Yes.
And it's as simple as that.
We had Australian surf titles last week, finished on the Sunday night with Zane, the club coach, who I stayed with all week with a few other crew, TJ and a few other people. And we went to the function afterwards, and we had the most beautiful speeches and the most beautiful connections, and 3 of our guys had amazing wins and breakthroughs, and
Fantastic.
And it was this 100% of that level feeling, you know, like, wow, we're through that level. This young guy came through, and that guy still showed the way. And you know, Ali Day won the iron, Tex won the board race, and Jet won the flags. And
Oh, well done.
and Jet from Stewie flags at the surf club as a 5-year-old all the way through, you know, so beautiful.
Yeah, the life athletes, they've been...
And Tex come from somewhere else but broke through all, you know, incredible stuff, right? So this is 100% of one level. I woke up the next morning, slight headache. By the time I got home to Jo, which is a favourite thing for me to do when I arrive home, when she says, how are you? She wants me to say, fantastic, so rejuvenated and refreshed from my week with all the people. And I tend to point out to her, well, I have been with a whole lot of people for a week and I do feel a little bit tired. Don't come into my house tired. And we have this beautiful banter around it. But anyway, I come in, and the harder I'm trying, I ended up, I went to bed at 8 o'clock.
Yeah.
I woke up at 11, think it was 5 a.m.
Yeah.
with an excruciating headache on all levels. The weirdest thing. I go, ah! And then for 2 hours, I laid there going, what is this? But it was 10% of the next level. Yeah, it was 100. I'd gone past 100% of one level.
Yeah.
And now I was at the next level, and it was like, you're going to feel some pain that you didn't feel this week about some things that were going on over there, blah, blah. And I got in the middle of the night, I went, okay, don't take an aspirin. I don't do that unless I haven't done it for a long time.
No.
Yeah.
It's not happening to me. This headache's not happening to me. It's happening for me. It's happening through me. And at some level, it's happening by me. I've created this to see something.
Yeah.
So see it. I'm like, I'm rolling around at about 1:20. What was the time?
1:20.
1:20. Jo knows exactly what time. 1:20. She wakes up and senses me, and she goes, are you trying to will me awake? And I'm like laying a bit closer to her. Like,
I just needed someone to
I
be
may be. I know I act tough, but I need a cuddle. You know, like, I just want to touch you, you know, like this. But I didn't touch her because I didn't want to wake her up. Maybe I put my hand on your hip or something.
I could hear him breathing heavier. And I could hear him metaphysically saying, please wake up, I just want to talk about a few things.
And she goes, how are you? And I go, I've got the worst headache. He's like, oh, that's no.
Great.
You know, great. I said, no, I'm improving. It's getting better. But we talked for a little while, listened to a bit of Dolores Cannon,
Yeah.
and fell back to
Good
sleep.
old
We had a
Dolores.
beautiful 5 hours.
Yes,
You know?
yes, it was good. It was good.
And isn't it funny? Like it's like when you retire, you know, all your sicknesses flare up, or like you know, you have a moment of, you know, you're busy, and then you stop, and everything kind of like
Comes in.
Catches
yeah.
up, yeah.
And you know, you hold space in a week like that with so many people and so much going on, and you know, and then
I
you come
I
home,
spoke
it's
at-
like, okay, well now, process a little bit, or I, you know,
Yeah.
we'll infiltrate a little bit of what's happening,
yeah.
needs to come out, you know, share
I
myself.
spoke at a dinner with a whole bunch of people, like 50 people on the Wednesday night, then went straight for Breath and Breakthrough. We had 15 men, 18 of us like going for it through the whole weekend, then flew to Perth and then held the space for the group the whole weekend, and then just in it came.
Yeah.
And it was like, hey, you need some time, firstly, to integrate whatever's going on and stop and shut up. You know, and I've been in the water. I went to the water again this morning with Keith, and every time I touch the water, I feel like she's just going,
Yeah.
sweetheart, hop in the bath, you know, like
Yeah.
let me caress you, you know.
Yeah.
So,
That's that
I've been
Atlantic.
going down and actually just drinking the salt water because I just feel like I need
Get
the
through your veins.
somehow.
interesting.
Yeah.
This is-
oh, you go, Joe.
Oh, sorry, I was just going to go on because it's perfect for the next
Yep.
question.
Yep.
So,
Yeah.
what do you do now to support yourself for staying in the moment?
Oh, are we? Well,
Wake Joe up in the
I'll
middle of
come
the
to
night and listen
yeah.
to Dolores Cannon.
I was going to say I'll come to the water in a minute.
Yeah.
Okay.
But I learnt to know who I love having around me, and what I. So it's not unlike me to talk to you, send you a message or say hello or something, or
Yeah.
come for a treatment.
Yeah.
But with
Have
Joe,
done that
we're
for
all
them.
the time. So
Yeah.
we share. We're quite like off we go, and then we come back and we share. And I'm like, you all right? And just listen and understand. Or you all right? And we'll just listen and understand. But between, you know, Kane and Keith and even our kids can
Yeah.
hold an amazing space. Vice versa, we share about anything.
The sauna.
But the first thing is people close to me. It's like people, you know, Brett and others, and
Yeah.
you know, there's so many I haven't
Hugo,
named, but
Austin.
even, you know, like girls that you've had on the retreat, ladies that you've had on
Yes.
this,
Yeah.
like Nikki and
Yes.
Kate and
Yes.
and others that are, you know, really, really powerful.
Yeah.
That I know I can reach anytime. Say hey,
Yeah.
and bounce around, you know. So that's probably the first thing.
Yeah.
Second thing is I do love my own space, and I love the water. I love going to the water with people, but I love going down to the water and just being around the water and doing qigong, bit of meditation, laying there, rolling, sitting up, laying down, sitting up, laying down, just being on the water's edge. So I do love going in the ocean, and I
Yeah.
love going fishing,
Yeah.
foiling, surfing. You know, Carl and Dan and the boys and all that sort of stuff that we go foiling with.
It's incredible.
Hopping in
watch
the sauna
foiling
with you
just
guys,
on
you
the-
know.
Yeah. The sauna.
Yeah.
Ice baths.
Yeah.
And ultimately, probably, it sounds funny, but whenever I'm in the work, as in one-on-one with people in groups, I do more healing than I do expending energy. So whilst I might have to come back and integrate it all,
Yeah.
I definitely finish a session as a better person. Like I walk back into the house much more present, just from being present to help someone else into some more presence.
Yeah.
So it's funny. It sounds like you're being there for someone else, but actually that's one of the biggest things that give me a lot of energy back.
Yeah.
But water is the
Oh, I was
central
gonna
thing.
Absolutely. I know that if he's cranky, which is hardly ever, and I'm speaking the truth, he's hardly ever cranky, I'll say to him, how long has it been since you've been in the water? And if he says, like, if it's longer than 2 or 3 days, I'm like, you need to go to the beach. Because
And it's a quick bike ride.
Yeah.
Yeah. But we went to Uluru,
yes, oh God, yes.
and they were
One
about
of
to
my-
close
yeah.
Uluru from climbing, and I climbed it twice as a kid.
Amazing.
And there's actually
experience.
rites of passage that the young boys do up there.
Yeah.
And so I was aware of it, and I wanted Bailey to come up it.
Bailey and I didn't want to walk it. We were like, we don't feel like we don't want
Appropriate
to,
or right or
yeah,
whatever.
we just,
And there's a lot of context around that. It's closing
Absolutely,
down,
yeah.
blah, blah, blah. You know, you're not supposed to do it. It's sacrilege and all this sort of stuff. And I'm like,
Yeah. My dad was
no.
really sad about the touristy aspect. He
Yes.
felt that
Yeah.
was very
Yeah.
disrespectful.
well,
Yeah.
what happened was I had this feeling constantly. I have a very strong connection. That's where I grew up, right? In
Yeah.
all those areas. And I had this strong feeling like, no, it's calling me.
Yeah.
And so we're going to go, and we're just going to go and feel it out. So anyway, through the guy that we met, who works with the senior elder in the area,
Yes.
he said, introduce you to the elder. And I spoke to the elder, and the elder said, he came to that function, and he said, no, because he knows I'm one of them. And he goes, oh, no, you go do it. You know, you go do it. And I said, yeah, I want to take my wife and son. He goes, no, you do it. It's right for you to do it.
Brilliant.
And so I went there and I'm saying, I got permission, you know. And they're going, oh, I'm not feeling it like this. And so anyway, there's like wards around the bottom of the rock, you know. And so you'd have to push past it.
Oh.
If you were just touristing, you'd have to push past that and be unaware. And I was aware of it, and I asked for permission at the base of the ward, and I got the door opened and I walked up. And they're standing there going, no, and I walked up a few steps. I'm standing above a 20-foot area of energetic protection around the thing. I'm standing above it.
Yeah.
And I said, hey, it's okay to come up. And they're going, no, we don't think so. And I said, just feel it.
Yeah.
Feel what you feel and come to here if you want to. And then both of them, Bailey went first, didn't he? And he walked up and he goes, Mum. And so she came up and they came and stood past the thing. And then you felt totally welcome, didn't you?
That's good.
Like loved and supported. I said, I'm telling you, we're meant to be doing this because it's a oneness thing.
Yeah, and you're reaching
it's not
into
them
that
and us,
space.
it's oneness.
Yeah.
We all share this ancient spirit. It's
Heart of
country.
Australia.
Yeah, and so, and we chose to be born here to bring this energy through, you know. So we walked up and it had rained the day before. So there's puddles all over the place. And so when we got right to the top, and Joe's like, I'm going to start walking down. I'm going, I want to go for a swim. And there was a tiny little, she's like, you are not, I'm leaving. I'm going for a swim. Bailey goes, that's sick, Dad. And he's like, I'll take a photo. So I've got a photo of me.
In his undies.
In my undies.
On top of a
laying in a rock pool, you know, with my arms spread out, head back in this rock pool, overlooking the whole desert on the top of Uluru. Like literally like 20 metres off one side of it, off the top, overlooking the whole thing. Yeah. And it's like, yes, I swam before it closed down. I got to have a swim on the top, which is those two things for me is country, which I connected to. I feel emotional when I say that, which my father had the courage to take me to, and the water, which is the mother, which I took myself to.
In the middle of the desert, you were in the water.
Yes.
My father took me there, and I took myself to the ocean. Well, he took me there too, but I took myself way out in it.
Yeah, and we've swum in some incredible...
Swam with dolphins and swam on whales' backs.
Since then,
yeah.
Amazing. Moving on. Yeah, that was beautiful. Thank you. How do you see the world now, and what do you see next for us through Trevor's...
Through my eyes?
Yes.
I see the world as this big pot of love trying to come about.
Cooking.
And through so much pain and separation. So I feel emotional when I say it. I feel it disconnects me when I feel it. I feel I'm still having difficulty being with the degree of pain. And I think we all chose to be born at this time to play our part, to make this shift. But the shift's not there yet. Not on the quantum level. It's like I feel like we've crossed some thresholds and I feel like it's happening. But on the weight of energy, it's like there's way more suffering than there is freedom. You know, so and I know that's our process to transmute that suffering. So I see the world as in a process, is in the middle of a great awakening. I see it as an opportunity. I see it as a struggle, as a challenge. I see it as a nightmare sometimes, but the greatest gift. And I see it as what is that feeling? It's like I just see the truth in it. You know, it's something happening that's amazing.
She's trying to show herself, isn't she?
She and he. She and he, because I think I've tapped into the she, which allowed me to tap into the he, and the he's behind the she as well. You know, that old thing, behind every great man's a great woman. Behind every great woman, you know, behind the great feminine is the great masculine as well. And so that sacred geometry of the sacred male was the I'm here, but I'm going to go to there. It's a straight line, and then I'm going to go there, all the places I can go. And then the sacred feminine goes, well, that's nothing unless we fill it in. So the feminine fills it in. So there is no, it's like you cannot get to the masculine, the full final awakening, unless you go through the womb, through the feminine.
Interesting.
So you got to feel it to heal it, and then see it to free it. So I feel like we're not going to see the freedom until we've felt all the pain. So I feel like our time on the planet is to feel. So we might have to feel a lot for a long time. And you think, well, I'm free now of my own most of my own baggage. Now it should all be light and fairy tales. It's like there's actually a lot of pain and I don't know.
Yeah,
more challenges than ever.
It's really
I
interesting
agree.
you just saying that. I just feel that whole thing, you know, where it is very internal. Like everybody's talking about this internal shift that's happening within each of us, and it is about. It's almost like I keep getting this vision of like a road with potholes everywhere, and the potholes are the parts of us that we need to, you know, clear, and then, you know, the path is going to be smoother. And it seems to be that way, you know. Sometimes we fall in the potholes and we need a little time in there to work it out.
And also, let's get a suspension kit on our vehicle and handle the potholes better. For those listening, we have a four-wheel drive that I'm crazy about. And I was sharing with Michael Holmes yesterday. He said, last time I met you, we drove down to the beach in your black BMW.
Oh, wow.
And I was like, wow, how things have changed, because I was in the fast black car.
Yeah.
Now I'm in the slow white car that can go anywhere.
Yeah.
It's slower, but it'll go everywhere and anywhere and can take you with me.
Yeah.
And it's your home away from home.
It's home away from home. There's a house on the roof. It's very similar to what my dad taught me.
Yeah.
But I just want to share something really quickly that you made me think is that the potholes are about the challenge and being able to be with whatever comes up. So we have to be with whatever energy. But I felt like in this lifetime that a long time ago all the witches were burnt. And they were all the seers. They were all the women that felt and sensed and intuited the connection with the divine. And they were called pagans or witches or whatever else. Yeah. But they were helping birth the noblemen's children and they were getting too much power. And so church and state at the time saw that as a threat, and so literally saw the feminine, the sight, the vision, the wisdom as a threat, which is they saw the connection to the divine through the feminine as a threat, because one thing the feminine connection does is it exposes everything. Yeah. So for me to go free in my own personal life, I had to come clean about what the masculine had been up to, and the feminine had to love me. Yeah. And then when it did, it gave me the chance to then love the feminine in myself and be true to that. And then as I've gone on, I'm surrounded by amazing men and amazing women, and who I feel like are brothers and sisters. Yeah. But I feel like it's shifted for me to touch the witches and you're dead. You know, like that's as the sacred masculine. Yeah. It's like, don't go near the witches, like to the powers that be. In the past, it was like maybe didn't say enough or watch them burn and didn't say anything, or was part of it, or was one of them. Right. Yeah. But it feels like if this sounds strange, it feels like inside of myself, I'm rectifying something where I'm saying, touch the witches, and you've got me and my mates and sisters to answer to. Yeah. It's not like a violent thing or a thing. It's just like,
but it's
we can see what you're doing. Don't go near them. Stay away. I can see you.
It's upholding. It's upholding of that sacred energy and of what true rites of passage and true healing and what true honouring each other on every level is all about.
What's trying to come through, which is what you just said, right? The feminine's trying to come through, the healing's trying to come through. In some ways we have to be open and also strong. Open to say, isn't this beautiful, and strong enough to say, you can come in this room, but not until you discard that. You know, no, I know better, you can do this, let that go and come in. You know, like, so the invitation's there, but it's not the invitation to every energy to come in and trash the place.
I see you, I see all of you.
Yeah. And I believe in you. Yeah. And right now you're trying to take everything out, but no, stop. You know, so for whatever reason I felt to mention that.
No, well, I think every woman who's sat in this chair now, every man is one of those women that's been burned at the stake or, you know, has lost her life through what she's been living and giving. And I think even our listeners, you know, I think you're also part of that.
Oh,
you
absolutely.
know, because as we've shared, you know, you're giving some beautiful feedback, but there's resonancy on so many levels from everyone's story, and there's a reason for that. I think we've all shared exactly what you're just saying, Trevor, where there's been crucifixion, where there's been burning at the stake, where there's been a disempowerment.
We've had crazy stories along the way of remembering bits of that and feeling like, I was there then and I was there, and we've got family lineage. We're going to go to Scotland in September. My mum's side goes back to William Wallace. They rode with all that sort of stuff, you know. I think apparently one of us died with him or something like that, but it feels like you repeat these lifetimes and you fight for the good, but
Yes.
in the end, it's not about the fight. It's about seeing the good in everybody, which is what the Christ consciousness and the Buddha was. You know, and Eckhart,
Yes.
see the good in everybody, so there is no fight anymore.
Yes.
You know, and
That stood out when you shared that before, was if we all related to each other in this way, there would be no war, because we'd be fighting ourselves.
yeah, that's right.
You know.
Yeah, you're fighting the other. Is you. You are the other.
Yeah. Wow. Wow, this has been
My head's spinning.
amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think we need to, not need to, but I think it's like time to round it off. It's nearly been 2 hours. It's been really amazing. It's flown.
It's the longest time I've spent with you for quite a while. Like,
How nice. We'll have
Yeah.
to-
All in
to
one
get
space.
Joe, I've had to come into the podcast
Yeah.
space. Where are you? I'm doing a podcast.
Come and
Well,
meet my
could I-
wife.
Thank you. Yeah.
Maybe this opens the floodgate for the other men.
Oh, it
you know,
absolutely
I know
will.
you got a few beautiful men hanging around that are like
Yeah.
really divine
Yeah,
inspiration.
No, we
And
definitely have a few guys on our radar that we will.
Would be honoured to have in the seat.
Yes.
Yeah.
Absolutely. But thank
And
you
share.
for coming in and being the first.
thank you.
Yeah, it's been really beautiful.
Opening the
you.
portal of the divine masculine.
Yeah.
Thank you.
I think
Being received.
feels strange to share that bit because I feel like I'm still trying to do my best around it, and I think I feel like I'm correcting where even, you know, playing the field or being untrue is part of a manifestation in this lifetime of not protecting the divine feminine, you know. So I feel like I'm learning how to actually do that
It's beautiful.
one new moment at a time, one
Yeah.
sister at a time,
Yeah.
looking after the sisters rather than being part of the other game.
Thank you, brother.
Yeah.
Thank you, sister. Thank you, my gorgeous, amazing human wife.
Thank you. I love you.
Love you too.
Love you too. Love you too.
Bye.
So much love. That was magic. Thank you for listening, and remember, all links to our guest are in the notes. Leave us a comment here or message us on Instagram how our guest today connected with you, or perhaps something you wish to share. A special thank you to the blissful Ksenia Luki for our theme song. Joe and I will be with you next week.
Bye.
Ciao.
She teaches me lessons, and boy does she sing. Her voice sways like a hummingbird, flies like a shooting star. She whispers, "You were